Sup? No. Lock down, lock down, lock down, lock down, baby, lock them down.
This story happened several years ago. I was working as a substitute teacher at the time. This was my first day.
Hey, yo, substitute, I feel bad for substitute teachers because kids, at least when I was in high school, I didn't give a cluck about you or what you had going on. You wasn't my real teacher, so I wasn't about to treat you with no real respect. I'm sorry, that's cap. But to be honest, yeah, I really didn't care that much at all. When we had a substitute teacher, we were wilding out every chance we got. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it goes. I don't know if y'all still do that. You know, like substitute teacher comes in, y'all be like, "Who the hell are you? What? Get the hell out of here!" On me, I did not care. I treated the substitute teacher with respect, but I didn't care at all about what you said, what you were doing, what you were talking about anything.
Being at a new high school that I had never been to before. I was substituting for an English teacher and was given some readings to assign to each class, and for one of the classes I got to play a movie. Overall, it seemed like a pretty easy day.
Movies also be clutch too. I'm not even gonna hold you. Movies always be clutch. You know, turn off the lights, especially when it's boring. I'm going right to sleep. What the fuck about? On me, bro. Middle school, high school, I got mixed feelings. But whenever we had a substitute teacher, or whenever there was a movie playing, yeah. Oh, and if we didn't have to take notes, I'm on my phone or I'm going to sleep.
I arrived at the school before classes started and went into the crowded hallways. I was making my way through the large and older-looking school to the classroom that I would be in. But I sort of had to go to the bathroom and realized I had a little bit of time, so I stopped. I was in the bathroom for no longer than 1 minute, and when I came out, the halls were nearly empty. I looked at my watch and saw that I still had plenty of time until classes started. I was wondering to myself where everybody had gone. I saw just a couple of kids walking down the halls, but they quickly disappeared.
If this is a lockdown, why wouldn't they tell you it's a lockdown? Wouldn't they just, would they not say it on the intercom? Or would they just tell the teachers that it's a lockdown and then the teachers would tell the students? Because that's a dick, I don't know.
I started walking to the classroom, but not 10 seconds later I heard some sound come over the loudspeaker at the school. There was an announcement that we were now under a lockdown, and for students to go to their first hour classrooms immediately. I rushed to get to my classroom now. Like I said, it was a big school, and it being my first time there, I had a little bit of a hard time knowing where everything was. I didn't see anybody else at all in the hallways, and the school was completely silent. At last, I made it to the classroom that I was in charge of for the day. The door was closed, but it was unlocked, and I opened it up and went inside. I saw that all of the lights were off, which was lockdown protocols, but as I saw some light from the hallways get into the rest of the classroom, I didn't see any students. I figured maybe they were in the back corner of the classroom. I announced to the room that I was there and asked if any students were in there, but I didn't get any response. I took out the flashlight on my phone and then shined it to the back of the room. It wasn't long before I realized that there was nobody in the classroom at all except for me, or so I thought. I noticed something in the corner of the room as my flashlight went over it. Behind a desk, there appeared to be a grown man crouched over it.
Oh my God.
I pretended not to notice him, but in reality I was freaked out. I walked up to the front end of the classroom and planned to walk back out into the hallway, but as soon as I got towards the front of the room, I started to hear movements in the back. It sounded like whoever was back there was now running to the front of the classroom. I scrambled to get out of the door and back into the hallway, and I was able to just before I heard whoever was back there reach the door.
Jesus.
They didn't come out though, but instead remained in the room. I ran as far away from that room as I could, and eventually I saw a police officer. They questioned me because I wasn't a regular employee of the school, but after they found out I was a substitute, told them about the man I had seen in the room. I left the school, and they searched it thoroughly. Eventually, they were able to find a man hiding near the classroom that I was supposed to teach in. He was found with a knife on him. I think he was planning to hurt the teacher that regularly taught in that classroom. I'm lucky that I was able to leave the room before the man caught up to me.
I'm glad he used a substitute. Fuck.
This happened many years ago, back when I was a kid. At the time, I was in 8th grade and in middle school. I was a pretty quiet kid and didn't have a whole lot of friends at the school that I talked to a whole lot. I would spend most of my free time reading and studying. I was a really good student. I didn't like to think of myself as a nerd, but I guess some other kids thought of me as one. Anyways, one place that I would go to a lot was the school library. I would study in there and also do some reading. One day after school, I went to the library to do homework and read a little bit. This is something that I did a lot because I didn't take the bus home and instead walked home because I only lived a few blocks away.
There it is.
Typically, I would stay in the library for about an hour or maybe 2. I was reading a new book and I was really getting into it when suddenly I heard the door to the school library open and a guy come running in.
Oh.
The library was not very busy at all, as it never was. I had never seen this guy before, and the way the guy looked, he didn't work there. He looked directly at me after running in, and then ran behind some bookshelves that were in the left of the entrance. I looked to the front desk, but nobody was there. I then looked around and realized that I was probably the only person who saw this guy. The guy had long hair and a beard. He also wore a really beat-up looking jacket. I was a little bit alarmed after seeing this and got up to the front desk to find where the librarian was. But as I was walking up there, suddenly I heard an announcement of a school lockdown come over the intercom.
Late as shit saying that shit. God damn.
Even though class was not in session, there were still people in the school, including a lot of students, with after-school activities going on, such as sports and other clubs. Shortly after, I saw the librarian come back from a little office behind the desk and tell me we were now in a lockdown and I would have to go in a certain room they had in the library. I told the woman that I had seen a man run in the room. I could only assume he was the reason for the lockdown. The woman then told me to come with her and called out if there was anyone else in the library. Nobody responded, and after looking around, we realized I was the only student in there at the time. We both then left the library and went into a nearby room. In this room appeared to be only faculty members, mainly other teachers. I was told there had been a suspicious man in the school, and some of them started to ask me more details about the man that I had seen. We all stayed in that room for a long time, and I was told that the police had come to the school and would locate the man. But after about 2 hours, we were let out. I wasn't given an answer whether they had found the man or not, and later that night, I found out that they never found him.
Jesus.
They did say that the entire school grounds had been properly searched, so we were now safe, but my parents were a little worried and reluctant to send me back to school. The next day, though, everything was fine and we had a normal day of classes. I was even back in the library like usual. The day after that, though, was different. I had walked to school and got there pretty early like usual. I walked the several blocks from my house and into the same entrance of the school that was closest, which was the one in the northeast side. This was kind of a back way into the school, and not a lot of students came in this way because it was not one of the main entrances. I liked it because it was closest to me and also very quiet and not as busy. I entered and began walking down the halls to my locker. I was the only person in this quiet hallway until I saw something. I saw the same man with long hair and a beard that I had seen the other day. He was even wearing the same old jacket. But this time, he was all the way on this side of the school, far away from the library where I had seen him before. The man was pretty far away and didn't seem to notice me. He was coming out of what appeared to be a storage room. As soon as I saw him, I jumped into an old classroom that they had, and I immediately hid from the man. The lights were off in this room, so I couldn't see a thing, but I found a desk and hid underneath it. I could hear the man's footsteps coming down the hall, closer to the room that I was in. I was hoping and praying that the man hadn't seen me or heard me in any way. Eventually, the footsteps got closer to the room, and then appeared to stop. I held my breath in this moment. I was terrified, but I listened closely to hear anything. After about a minute of silence that felt like forever, I finally heard the door to the school open and then shut. I had hoped this meant that the man had left. I waited about another minute, and then got out from under the desk and ran down the hallway to another one where I finally saw another student. I went to my first classroom of the day and found my teacher, Mrs. Caldwell, and told her everything. Once again, we went under a lockdown and the police were called. The man never was found, but I didn't see him again after that.
You know, oh shit, I did not know it was a third story.
Back when I was in high school, I would say for the most part I was a good student. My grades were mainly B's and a few C's. I wasn't the brightest, but I always went to class and tried my best. Mainly, I was just good at gym classes and other easy elective ones, and I really hated science and math.
Same.
One day during my junior year of high school, I got to my science class to see that we had a substitute teacher for the day. This class was also my last class of the day, and my best friend Tommy was in the class with me. For those two reasons, I liked it, but the actual topic of science I absolutely hated. We were glad to see a substitute, because usually that meant it was going to be an easier day. The substitute announced that he was going to play a video for us. The video was a series we had been watching sometimes in class about science, and it was super boring. He then got onto the computer to take attendance. The school had computers set up in every classroom for teachers, but the substitute couldn't seem to log in. He tried for several minutes, and then announced to us that he wouldn't be taking attendance after all because he couldn't access the class roster. This was a few years ago, so we all watched the video on one of those big TVs they had on the rolling carts. The teacher turned the lights off and began to play the video. He then announced he was going to go fill up his water and would be back in a minute. Tommy and I saw this as an opportunity. There were two doors in the classroom, one at the front and one at the back. We both sat in the far back corner, and when the teacher left the room, we both left out the back door into the hallway. We then snuck around the corner over to where some other classrooms were. Of course, we couldn't let any teacher or hall monitor see us, so we went into this little area that was kind of hidden. It was a little storage hallway near the art department and was really long and narrow. It was a hallway with a bunch of closet areas inside of it for storage and was rarely ever used. We both went in there and sat down. We were then free to play games on our phones and talk, and even eat some snacks that we had in our backpacks. This was much better than being forced to watch a boring science video in our minds. We began to joke around and play on our phones. I was eating a bag of potato chips when I suddenly heard a noise come over the school intercom. Before long, we heard that there was a lockdown going on. Tommy and I both looked at each other. "What do we do?" he asked. "I guess we had better just stay put and keep hidden in there." We decided to move into one of the closets they had in the storage area with a bunch of stuff. It was quite cluttered in there, but we were both able to squeeze in. Some time went by, and we both wondered what the lockdown was for, and hoped that no teacher would ever look down that hallway that we were in. We were going through scenarios in our head, and figured it was nothing serious, when suddenly the door to the hallway we were in opened. Our hearts started to beat really fast. The closet we were in didn't have a door that properly closed, so it was open just a crack. The hallway door then shut again, and we heard heavy breathing come from the end of the hallway. We both got as quiet as we possibly could. We heard whoever was in there walk down the hallway towards us. It wasn't long before the person passed by the closet that we were in. We could see that it was a man, but we didn't recognize him. He was younger looking and wore average clothes. He walked past us, and we heard the closet door next to ours open. At that point, we were both terrified. Both of us sat in there for several minutes. We could hear the man moving sort of, and also breathing heavily at the same time. Tommy whispered quietly to me that he couldn't take it anymore and we had to get out of there. We both counted to 3, and then made a mad dash for the door at the end of the hallway. We both knew that we could outrun the man. As we had made it almost to the end of the hallway, we heard someone shout at us. We both got out of that hallway and ran back to our classroom. When we got there, the door was locked. We both banged on it until the teacher opened it up for us. After that, the lockdown lasted a while longer, but thankfully the man was in fact caught. It was some tense moments in that room, and it's safe to say that Tommy and I both regretted our decision to leave class.
Oh, is he going? Okay, he going back.
This is a bizarre story from my time in high school. When I was a senior, we had a student transfer into the class. His name was Michael. Michael seemed like a pretty average kid to me. He was mostly quiet, and over time we became friends a little bit. I was a pretty friendly guy and was friends with almost everybody in my grade, even though it was a pretty large school. I had 2 classes with Michael, and so we would mainly just talk about class, sports, and basic school conversations. But beyond that, I didn't know a whole lot about Michael. As for myself, I was a pretty average student. I liked to spend more time talking sports and playing video games than studying, but I did get my work done. One day, I showed up to class and talked with Michael about sports before the class started. We sat next to each other in that particular class, which was assigned by the teacher, and we would usually chat most days. When I got to my second to last class of the day, which Michael was also in, I found that he wasn't there. I didn't sit next to him in this class, but still noticed that he was gone. About 5 minutes into class, suddenly our school went into a lockdown. The teacher instructed us to go to the back of the room. He then turned off the lights and locked the door. We remained that way for almost an hour before we were told everything was fine and we could resume our classes.
Fine my ass.
Everybody in the school, of course, wondered the whole time what the reasoning for the lockdown was. I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit nervous when we were all in that classroom in the back corner. I wondered if we were in danger or not. At last, the next day, I learned the reason we had a lockdown, and when I did, it shocked me. The kid Michael that went to our school was not who he said he was.
Oh, yeah?
He wasn't even a kid at all.
Yeah.
It was found out that he was a 26-year-old man who had been pretending to be a high school student.
Wow.
He had a lengthy criminal history of drug and stolen property crimes, and for some reason had come to my school. I don't know what his plans or intentions were, and it blows my mind how he was able to actually enroll. It's crazy to think how I had become friends with him, talking sports, not knowing he wasn't who he said he was the whole time. The school officials had found it out, and that's when the school went under a lockdown. It makes for a crazy story for me to tell now.
You suck. you're for like the story number 1, was the last story. He sucks. His Adidas senses was off. His red flag senses was off. His cluck senses was off. Everything was off. Cause why wouldn't you give a little something to let you know that he wasn't he who said he was? Jesus. And then it's like you can say to somebody or you can hear somebody say like you're safe or you're gonna be fine, nothing to worry about. But like truth be told, things happen all the time. You're never really safe. You can be more safe or less safe depending on, who you hanging out with, who you talking to, where you at. But you're never really safe 100%. Cause things can happen at any given time, at any given place, at any given moment. Let's say you can be in the solitary confinement by yourself. You have a security guard right outside the door. Not saying that this, will happen, but like the security guard could go in and cluck you up. You don't know. You always got to protect yourself at all times. That's all I got to say about that, man. Jesus. Oh, also. And I don't know if you've ever been in a lockdown, but this is for people. This is for both kinds of people. The ones that has been in a lockdown, and the ones that never been in a lockdown. What would you do if a lockdown happened and a teacher told y'all to all crowd and get in one spot in a corner? Would you do that, or would you try and like leave the premises? Cause I just feel like, you know, that's stupid. Cause the person could easily go, not easily, but like the person could possibly go in a room, see it's a bunch of people in one corner and start shooting. When that's an easy ass target. Come on, man. Jesus. Keep cool. Keep calm. Keep it cool. Keep it classy. And I love you. Stay happy. My family.